your sleeves. Let's do some business.
Yeah.
This ain't over. Where's that folder? Matthew. I have in my right hand the crown jewels. You don't know it yet. You won today. We put a majority on the floor and we won. And they don't know it, and most of you don't know it yet. I'm about to explain this to you. And so is Matthew. Where'd my speech go? I guess I stuck it in my back pocket. Okay, how do you put a majority on the floor and lose? How do you put a minority on the floor and win? Now that takes some doing.
Morality and immorality.
Sorry.
Collusion with the chair.
We have all the answers. We're just searching for the right questions. At the beginning of the convention, you may have noticed there were a lot of calls for division and roll call. We had people looking at the convention from above and taking assessment of who was voting. And at the very beginning of the convention, before the alternates were seated, it was about 50-50. And we voted 50-50, 50-50. I don't know, they might have had 10 more votes, or I don't care, 50 more votes than we had. We might have had more than they did, but we'll never know. Because we never counted our votes. And you know what? We have a parliamentary right to count our votes. What happened to us today has been happening to constitutional conservatives in the Republican Party for more than a quarter of a century.
That's right.
And for more than a quarter of a century, they've been taking it. We'll get to that. I'm going to share a little bit of history with you. Based on the early reports, don't leave. We got the crown jewels to get to. Based on the early reports, at 7:15 a.m., Sung Hee Cho confronts 3 people getting out of an elevator and begins firing. He hits a Virginia Tech counselor, a female student, and her boyfriend. The boyfriend calls 911 for help. When the police arrive, they find the fatally wounded women, one of whom is in the arms of the man who, to the police, is obviously the perpetrator. He is a male, involved in a heterosexual relationship with one of the victims, and he tries to blame an Asian. Obvious racism. There are no firearms present, of course, and the man himself is wounded, but the police immediately arrest him based only on the evidence I've just given you. They inform the school that the incident has been resolved. And for the next 2 hours, while his girlfriend dies, the white male of European descent is in custody undergoing interrogation. Case closed. This is the idiocy to which politically correct police have been knife-armed. During the same period, Cho returns to his lair and changes identity into his supervillain costume. He photographs himself in the dramatic poses of Korean martial arts pornography, films a video, writes 7 pages of poorly spelled anti-Christian hate manifesto. He was an English major. FedExes it to NBC and loads up his ammo. The ammo is real. He signs the documents with the same name he scrawls across his arm in red ink. It is his supervillain identity. Ishmael acts. Then, completely unimpeded, he returns to the school. Entering an engineering building, he chains the doors and begins methodically going from room to room, executing innocent people. I don't know if he had any direct relationship to Planned Parenthood, but if he were smart, he would have called it something like academic freedom or intellectual choice. Something like that. Unaware of the existence of Ishmael acts, one classroom becomes annoyed at being unable to hear the professor because of the loud bang, bang, bang they assume to be nail guns from some nearby construction. A female student is dispatched to close the door, and she sees Ishmael walking down the hall with his axe. She informs the class that there is a gunman and returns to her seat. And there she sat, along with everyone else. They all knew they had to do something, but they were all frozen. They couldn't move, though they knew their lives depended on it. In their hearts, they had become sheep. Finally, one young man pushed the teacher's desk in front of the door and saved the lives of the whole classroom by his unique power to overcome social convention. Which brings us to where you live. For more than a quarter of a century, Ishmael Axe has been coming through the Republican Party, and constitutional conservatives have been sitting there in their seats, wishing someone would come and save them. As I speak, Ishmael Axe is coming down the hall of Classroom America. We all know he isn't any kind of construction crew. He's butchering property rights, exterminating national sovereignty, eradicating sexual morality and love, recycling rapists, and literally slaughtering innocent children by the thousands every day. America knows this, and yet sits frozen, unable to act, though the future of freedom and justice on earth depend on it. The Republican National Committee remains seated. They raise verbal objections, but do nothing. They're following the teacher's manual, maintaining decorum. They think you should do the same. Everyone is more comfortable with that. Just sit and wait. They've decided to open a dialogue with the killer. Compromise. That's the answer. Which brings us to you. The world awaits a generation that is undeterred by social convention, that is not psychologically disarmed, that's willing to ignore immobile leadership, and not to push the teacher's desk in front of the door either. They're going to get up from their desks, cross the classroom, and kick the door down, locked and loaded. Ron Paul spent a career of 30 years with an incredible discipline to the Constitution. It's phenomenal. And most people a year ago didn't know who he even existed. And do you know what he purchased with that 30 years of strict adherence to the truth?
Our loyalty?
He bought a generation that's going to kick the doors down. We're not close to done. For about that period of time, I've been struggling against the powers that showed themselves in that building. And I've watched, as we had the Reagan Revolution and the Robertson people came in, and the Reagan people had a superstar. And I say the Reagan people, I was one of them. We had a superstar that won everything for us. He was a movie star. Real famous. People loved him, brought tears to their eyes when he spoke. He won the presidency. And he was up there pretty much alone. And you know, you complain, well, he had all these CFR guys, and well, there wasn't anybody else there. Where were you guys? And then we had Pat Robertson emerge and bring all kinds of people out of the woodwork. They believed in America. They believed in good things. Now, they didn't have the guts to kick the door down. And we saw the Pat Buchanan people, and they had the guts to kick the door down, but they got sick of this party and left. They decided to go third party. Haven't heard from them since.